I was working late into the night to cover my university expenses. Due to my school schedule, I often had to work the night shift. I was employed at a quiet gas station on the outskirts of the city. My shift started at 10 p.m. and ended at 4 a.m. Typically, there were at least 2 people working during the night shifts, but my colleague informed me that they couldn't come to work that night due to a family emergency. They had the night off. Since the nights were quiet, I thought being alone wouldn't be a problem. My tasks were mainly to restock the shelves and fill up a customer's car when they arrived. I had completed my tasks and decided to sit down and check my phone. It was 01:34 a.m. I noticed a dimly lit black car with damage to the front and back, pulling into the gas station. It was odd that no one got out of the car, and its windows were tinted black, making it impossible to see who was inside. I approached the car to fill it up, tapping on the window twice. There was no response. It was strange, and fear started to creep in. I even considered calling 911 out of fear. However, since nothing had actually happened, I thought it might be best not to bother the police. I returned to my post after completing my tasks, and about 5 to 10 minutes later, I was surprised to see that the car had left without getting any fuel or anything from inside. Soon after, I heard police sirens in the distance. Strangely, the police parked in front of the gas station and entered. They asked me if a damaged black car had been here, and I explained the entire situation. One of the officers said, "You got lucky, kid," which I didn't quite understand at the time. Later, they made an announcement on the radio saying that an armed robber had been here 15-20 minutes ago. The police searched the area thoroughly but found nothing. Reflecting on the events, I realized that armed robbers could have entered, taken all the money, and potentially harmed me. Fearing for my safety, I told my boss that I wanted to resign after this incident. The passage of time seemed to slow as I continued my duties through the night, the rhythmic restocking of shelves providing a semblance of normalcy in the quiet convenience store. The ambiance, usually punctuated by the distant hum of refrigerators and the occasional rustling of products, became increasingly eerie as the night wore on. It was during this seemingly uneventful graveyard shift that a peculiar sound disrupted the familiar cadence. Echoing from an adjacent aisle, it piqued my curiosity, pulling me away from the routine. The sliding door, which typically heralded the arrival of customers with its distinct noise, remained eerily silent. Attributing the noise to a fallen product, I dismissed it initially, focusing on the task at hand. Yet a lingering sense of unease accompanied me, intensifying when I caught a fleeting glimpse of a figure in the dimly lit store. A man, seemingly out of place in the quiet solitude, stood at the end of an aisle, his gaze fixed in my direction. His presence exuded an air of strangeness, prompting me to approach and offer assistance. The man's request for directions to the eggs was innocuous, but his appearance was anything but ordinary. His facial features, neither ugly nor attractive, held an uncanny resemblance to characters from animated shows, a disconcerting blend of reality and cartoonish peculiarity. Politely assisting him, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. As I expedited my efforts in the cereal aisle, attempting to distance myself from the peculiar encounter, the man intercepted my path. Awkward small talk ensued, with his inquiries delving into the uncomfortably personal. He probed about my social life, parties, relationships, and crossed boundaries by placing a hand on my shoulder. Sensing the need to escape, I retreated towards the storage room. Opting to wait for him by the register, my anticipation for a swift departure morphed into an anxious vigil. Minutes stretched into an eternity, yet the strange man had vanished, leaving me to grapple with the unsettling aftermath. A combination of relief and lingering unease accompanied my journey towards the employee bathroom, a temporary sanctuary from the haunting memories. Seated on the toilet, bathed in the feeble glow of the bathroom light, I was abruptly startled by the creaking of the door. Suppressing the urge to speak, I looked down to see an eye peering through the narrow gap of the stall door. Panic surged as the realization of being trapped set in, prompting a quick calculated response. Summoning a surge of courage, I retrieved the box cutter from my pocket and skillfully slid it through the opening. The intruder recoiled, allowing me to burst out of the stall and make a frantic dash to escape the confines of the store. As I fled, a sense of dread clung to me, urging me to report the harrowing experience to my boss and subsequently to the police. By the time the authorities arrived, the mysterious man had vanished without a trace, leaving behind an unsettling void. Reluctantly, I endured the night shift twice more, the ghostly memory of that unnerving encounter haunting my every move. Some experiences are like shadows, lingering in the recesses of the mind, forever altering the perception of the once familiar nocturnal landscape. Because my computer was outdated, I wanted to buy myself a brand new computer. Half of the money had been provided by my family, but I needed to gather the other half myself. That's why I started working as a waiter in the shopping mall of our city. At that time, I was working the night shift as a waiter. Usually I was with other colleagues, but that night I had to serve alone. The clock showed 2 in the morning, and the cafe had calmed down significantly. However, due to the fatigue of waiting tables, I decided to sit in a corner and take a break. At that moment, I felt the door opening slightly. When I looked up, I saw a man entering. The man's style and posture were quite normal, but there was a strange expression on his face. His eyes seemed as if he had delved into deep thought. Carefully scanning the surroundings as he entered, he noticed me and approached. "Hello, can I get something to drink?" he asked. Normally, this question wouldn't surprise me, but this man had asked it with a very strange tone, and his gaze was unsettling as I took his order. Even his voice had a strange tone. When he took his fruit juice and sat at a table, my eyes were constantly on him while serving other customers. Looking at this man, I felt a strange unease. As the time passed, I sensed an oddity around the man. Only he and I were left in the cafe. The man seemed to be thinking about something, occasionally lifting his head to scan the surroundings. It was as if he was checking for cameras and acting as if he were expecting something. As it approached the 0030, the man's phone started ringing. He quickly got up and left the table. As he exited through the door, he turned to me and smiled. In that smile, I felt a threat, but it disappeared after a moment. The next morning, I told my closest coworker about the events, and I learned that the man was actually not mentally stable. There had been incidents of him attacking people without any reason, so he had spent some time in a mental hospital. I felt very fortunate that he hadn't done anything to me that night,